All right. Well, welcome to our Wednesday posting. And it's a difficult day because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It's kind of casting a shadow on the day. It's gotten more violent today. The Russians have bombed Kiev's television towers and blocked the media. It's difficult to do both things at once. And of course, I hope this book helps to understand a dynamic like what's taking place in Russia and Ukraine, because of course, we have human beings here who could recognize one another's humanity, and not just Russia and Ukraine, but then we'd have to have the NATO countries involved in the same kind of peacemaking that's designed to create a world in which we fully see one another, rather than one in which we construct each other as enemies out of our own nationalist identities that are part of course, they reflect a real history, and yet they become part of a false self when enemies are required to be constructed in order to maintain that national identity. So all of this is part of the purpose of the book, is to illuminate this kind of pathology, false we's confronting each other and failing to see one another as we really are. So that's the kind of day it is today. And it's just standing in awe of that and hoping that each day that some kind of thawing of the fear of the other and paranoia abates, allowing a more human, supple recognition to occur among human beings. And all of us trying to express and maintain that peace awareness, we might say, is very important. In fact, Charles Eisenstein has just written a piece called The Field of Peace, which in a way argues for just this kind of thing, this kind of thawing of the field within which, at the moment, too much pathology and fear is blocking the ability to heal the field that contains all of us. So I have my Ukrainian armband on in solidarity with them today, made of my napkins, blue and somewhat yellow. Okay, today's post is on a related idea, the psychospiritual field. We are still in the P's in our glossary from the book, The Desire for Mutual Recognition. And let me read psychospiritual field, the glossary term. This term refers to the interhuman life world itself as a vital and alive milieu. I find this descriptive term more phenomenologically accurate than words like society or the social world, because these latter terms are lifeless abstractions that imagine the interhuman life world from a distance. My use of the term psychospiritual field is an attempt to dissolve society back into the spirited environment that it really is in its lived dimension. And in the book, I try to locate myself amidst the field as a describer of a milieu that I myself am also living in. I use psycho-spiritual and social spiritual more or less interchangeably, but later in the book, I place somewhat greater emphasis on the social character of the psycho-spiritual field because of my focus in chapters 9 and 10 on social spiritual activism. All right, so the idea here is that the world, when we talk about the world, society, American society, if we talk about American society that way, just the way I'm doing right now, we might say American society has 4 key elements. And then I could list some elements. That way of talking, I'm standing back and thinking about something else called American society. And I am standing back from it, analyzing it from a distance. And valid knowledge can be communicated that way. I'm not saying it all has to be rejected, but what is missing the minute that you do that, the minute you start talking about American society and you put that distance between yourself and what you're talking about, the minute that you do that, you've created an abstraction without feeling, like the 4 components of American society that are critical are that way of talking. Whereas the psycho-spiritual field seeks to come down into the world as we experience it. So we're not up here talking about it, we come down into it, and then we describe it as co-participants in a living environment, a living milieu. And the minute that you do that, it becomes enlivened by all the emotion and feeling and spiritual vitality or lack of it that one can experience in the world as it is really lived. So to take an example I've used throughout the book, if I watch a newscaster, I can talk about the newscaster, like they're reporting the news well or not well, and this is the content that they're covering or not covering. But if I'm experiencing the newscaster in the world of the media transmitting certain feeling and images, and he's talking like this, I can say he's a robot, or he's behaving like a robot. He's acting like a false self, and I feel myself withdrawing from that as I'm trying to listen. It's painful. Why is he acting like a false self? Well, he's concealing something. It's not manifesting who he actually is. And he's concealing something out of a way that the role reflects sort of a fear of the other that places a separation or a moat between me, the listener, and him, the speaker. And then all of these listeners, millions of them simultaneously, are watching him and are internalizing the way he expresses himself into themselves as what the world is like, creating a tendency within this field, the psycho-spiritual field, for everybody to be separated and withdrawn. Now, you'd never be able to do that description if you were talking about newscasting from a detached standpoint. Only from coming down into the world and illuminating it can you actually capture the meaning of the world as it actually is, the life world as it actually is. So that's the meaning of the term, the psycho-spiritual field. Van Morrison tried to capture this idea in a song called, I forgot the name of the song, but the lyric is, if my heart could do my thinking and my head begin to feel, I could look upon the world anew and know what's truly real.
if my heart could do my thinking and my head began to feel, will I look upon